Welcome. Thank you for joining. This is the Town Hall Get to Know broadcast, and tonight we have a very special guest. We have Dr. Sofie Nubani with us this evening, and we're going to be talking about when we serve, how we heal, and how serving others is a great opportunity to get involved in your community, to be able to help not only yourself, but help others. We've been focusing lately on human trafficking. We're going to kind of talk maybe a little bit about that this evening. Dr. Sophie was one of our board panelists from last Sunday. We had a 2-hour special on E360 TV. By the way, if you have a smart TV, you can download that application, E360 TV, for your Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple or Android TV, and watch us on regular TV. You can also go to e360tv.com and watch us on or under positive vibrations. Yeah, that's what it is. Positive vibrations, because that's what we are. We're about positive positivity, I should say. And tonight we have Dr. Sophie, like I mentioned. Dr. Sophie is a Creatrix interpersonal executive coach. She's a certified yoga laughter therapy instructor, certified NLP coach and practitioner, emotional intelligence. I can't say that. Intelligence coach, certified motivational coach, a certified Reiki teacher. Boy, I tell you, she's also an ordained minister as well. Her unique coaching style helps people release emotional pain and reach a higher mental state. She's also the current best-selling author of Optimize Your Creative Mindset, and we're going to be talking about how we can use our creative thinking this evening to overcome some of the self-limiting thinking that we might have that might hold us back from serving others. And so really, without further ado, I'd love to bring in Dr. Sofie Nubani. Welcome, Dr. Sophie.
Hello, hello. Thank you, Stephen, for this beautiful introduction.
You're
And,
welcome.
and it's always nice to be a guest on your show, as you are an empowerment host and inspirational as well. So we love what you're doing in the community and all that you're bringing along, and the amazing mindset that you are gathering to really contribute to a bigger cause, and making this world a better place. So thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. You know, I found my purpose. My purpose is to serve others, as a matter of fact. And that's what we're going to be talking about this evening. Now, I want to just let all of the Facebook viewers know, if you're watching on Facebook, make sure to share this video out with your friends, with the groups that you belong to. Let's get the message out here. We're going to be helping people this evening make a positive impact in community and actually in your own life, because that's really where it starts. Is it starts with loving yourself and then being able to love others. And then, you know, I'm on a mission from God. I have a higher power, and God told me I need to go serve the community. And so that's what I do. And I know that Sophie does that too. So, Sophie, I really want to, I guess, start by thanking you for being a panelist last week, Sunday, on this human trafficking answers, awareness, and prevention. It's a serious topic. It's also something that is on the minds of a lot of people these days. I'll tell you what I'd like to do is, just as a preface, I'd like to just play a clip from last week where you were talking, and that relates to exactly what we're going to be discussing this evening. And so let's go ahead and play that clip.
All right.
pandemic, and how that's even increased domestic violence, which can lead to some really ugly situations. Can you speak to that for us?
Yes, yes. First of all, Jody, I mean, I've heard your story for the first time, and I was extremely touched by it, especially that I had recently, becoming set up on this panel, had watched some of your things, but I didn't go back enough to learn about you in this details. And I have to say, much respect and honor to your serving soul, because when we serve, we heal. And true healing comes from forgiveness to others and ourselves, which is a very, very courageous act to reach. It takes a lot of inward search and soul searching and acceptance, respect, and realization to go that far that you are actually serving, that you're being that light for others, you're giving hope, you're strengthening their confidence, and you're being an advocate, showing up every day to minimize this horrible thing that is happening on a daily basis. And again, Jason, my goodness, I mean, you're talking about respect, much respect to your actions, to your commitment, to your dedication in this kind of service, because we each have gifts in life, and everybody has a tolerance level to being able to give, and we can only give of what we have with no judgment. But if everyone takes a part of what it is they can contribute or offer, so whether it is a wisdom, action plans, strategies, whether it is offering a shoulder to cry on, an ear to listen, or donating, if you are not capable and able to have the ways, tools, or techniques of teaching or helping or being in service, your donation is as equal, because somebody else now is able to do that on your behalf, who is very committed, very dedicated for such acts. So together we can rise and we can transcend the amounts, because each day by each one, just taking that 1% of extra awareness and delivery and commitment, the results are going to be a lot more fruitful to all of us. And my thought process in my area of expertise, I am more of mindset and psychology. And that is really where I excel in providing.
Well, you do excel in mindset as well, Dr. Sophie.
Oh, blessings, blessings. That was a very
That was
great
so
panel,
awesome and so
and all the panelists that contributed to in their insights and experience truly made it a lot more clearer for those who had no clue or were not really engaged maybe in a topic, but it opens their eyes on what the world is facing and how we could help in many levels, even when we're not physically able to do it ourselves, and allow someone else that is an expert or knows more about it and is dedicated to it can do so. So together we can do better, and together definitely we can go further.
it does take a team effort. There's no doubt about that, because we all have these, special talents. We all are unique and special. And so together, I've just found that when we bring people together that have strengths that we don't have, together we can just really make a big difference. Now, this show is all about people who are making a positive impact in their communities. And you've been making a very positive impact for many, many years, Dr. Sophie. I mean, you've got so many degrees and titles. You've certainly been diverse and putting a lot of information into your mind to be able to help people through some pretty tough times. And I think that these days people are suffering. There's a because of COVID, people have lost their jobs. People, the admittance is going up in mental health institutions. Opportunities for making money that aren't exactly above board have become popular. It's created separation, I think, in community. And so I'm just trying, as you are, to bring community together so that we can be that team and that voice of reason and the reminder that, you know what, everybody is okay. It doesn't matter whether I agree with that person or not. We
Mhm.
still need to come together as
Amen.
as a community. You know, our communities need us. The world needs us to be an example to others. So tonight we are talking about serving and healing. And so, before we go quite into that, I just want to address one thing that was with reference back to the human trafficking aspect here, because even that's increased because people are desperate for money.
Mhm.
Maybe not always necessarily right here in America, but certainly across the world, families are selling their kids into slavery. um, but I want to talk specifically about anybody out there that might feel like they have to do things that they don't want to do, that they know aren't right, but they're desperate, so they're willing to do things like maybe get involved in the prostitution end of things, so that they can create the money to maybe feed their children if that's where they're at with it, or put their kids through college. I know that I've certainly heard stories like that. And what would you say to those people, or they're needing to pay their bills? What would you recommend to those individuals that are maybe thinking about doing something that they may not be very proud of themselves and possibly regret?
Mm. What's a very sensitive and a very deep question, because, on different levels, and you talk about different scenarios. And when you are embodying compassion with no judgment, you're going to listen to understand, not to judge. So to many, they might look at the topic immediately as a big negative, and the person is just, they don't have any morals, they don't have any values, no principles. They bad and good, evil, and all these things could come to mind. But when we transcend the judgment and whatever belief systems that we have that cause this kind of response, is when we can solve such rooted issues that we are facing in society. If you want to go in an open-mindedness to people who are okay with things, and they, like, oh, so what, that's their choice. Everyone has a free will, and whatever free will you have, you can choose how you want to earn your living. But when we look at it collectively as a society, and as a human race, that route of living overall tend to show more negative results as an outcome on the human psychology and human soul, the heaviness that they carry, and the burden that comes with it on a longer term effect. So you talk to some of these people when they're in their later ages, and so many times they wish that this was not the choice that they had to take. And mind you, another concern, of course, is STDs and the disease that could be contracted from such behaviors as well. So outside from judgment, aside of belief system, aside of, does it look good? Does it present your family? Does this make your mother look like a lady, or this your sister look like a decent woman? Outside of all of that, let's say all of that is just titles, and we want to go with oneness and love and light. The sequences of such actions do bring more troubled souls to our human society, because of the way that this leads. It's almost like going into a very, very, very risky road, and every time you turn around, you're in this very thin lane, and you're in mountains, and you can, any minute you drop, you're falling down 5,000 feet down or something, you see. So living on eggshells, living with not knowing what to expect from the other party, and the association with that type of lifestyle, also the environment that's around it is a different environment that calls for more of less clarity of mind and production and creativity in a healthy way. All right.
Hmm.
Because we can create either way. We can create bombs, and we can create, like very nice spiritual spa retreats and all the other great stuff.
Sure, sure.
And
Well,
they're both creative. But
they
now
are.
talking, you asked that one thing, I would associate an action that leads to that is
Right,
maybe because of not having enough skills to use an alternative that could be appealing and you're more confident in. So the energy of desperation comes to mind. The
yeah,
energy of, self-worthiness and image comes to mind. That those are areas that if they are more balanced and the skill sets are developed, I would say those same people would probably choose different paths. And for the same reasoning, but because of their skill sets, they're able to choose other things that can be more rewarding and healthier as a choice on the overall term of their life journey.
right. That was very well said, and I picked up on a couple things. The first thing is the non-judgment. Seems like everybody's very judgmental these days. I know that, being judgmental for myself was something that I've been working on a long time to release
Mhm,
judgment of other people, thinking I might be better than the next guy because I don't. I know that I'm not, and my concern for people is yes, when they get desperate, some people will do just about anything, but that type of lifestyle, and even the lifestyle that I chose in the past, where I was drinking and utilizing drugs, took me to places that today I don't say I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't have it differently, only because I knew that I had to experience that stuff to be where I
mhm,
am today. And but I learned from that, and sometimes we have to be in really dark places to come into that light, and
mhm.
so it is all part of that journey.
Yes.
And regardless, that judgment is something that I think that I know that I continue to work on, to be getting myself in and I think it's like Buddha, where they're just central, they're just right in the middle, and you know not opinionated, yes or a no, just accepting.
Mhm,
And I recognize that acceptance is the answer to my problems. And when I
mhm.
accept people for what they've done, and then try and help them actually utilize those dark moments to become their strength, and that's what's really important here. Um,
On acceptance, I
yes,
have a little thing on that. I feel because we use it a lot, and sometimes, I would test myself to see, and what came to me from my scale of vision of things when the matter maybe is still not, I'm not accepting it enough to justify the action. But then when I talked and put in a different way, is I started respecting the free will of divine intervention and destiny that is put on my path. And knowing that what I cannot control or that happened and already been done, that I can't change in that time, but improve on today.
right,
Uh, Respecting that destiny or the divine will, uh, say, what happened allows me then to free myself more to accepting it.
right. So a person needs to accept their past to move forward in the future is what they need to do, and I certainly found that, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about next was. And I was there. And I talk about this from the aspect of feeling maybe inadequate, having low self esteem, not liking myself very much, feeling that I didn't have the skills or the talents to be able to do what somebody might ask me to do, or that I think that I would like to do, but selling myself short before I ever got started. What would you tell someone that is dealing with low self esteem, they're depressed, to give them the opportunity to recognize they can start getting creative and change the way things are.
That's a very important baseline for creative growth and self transcendence as well. I like the concept of Carl Rogers, where he, breaks self-concept into our self image and our self-esteem and our ideal self. So basically, your self esteem would be your worthiness and, your abilities as well. Um, self image and self esteem are very much aligned. Your worthiness and then your personality, your abilities. If you lack confidence in the areas, it's always going to create a disharmony between yourself and your potentiality, because of what you think of self. And you're going to be, whether it's not being recognized or appreciated or celebrated, different reasons why people would be in that area of void and self-doubt and many other things. But by maybe setting boundaries and realizing, like, okay, sit down and ask yourself, let's say you went on a job interview and you really believe you were very qualified and you had everything that would take why you would get it, and then you got rejected. And now that diminishes maybe your feeling of self-confidence about, and self-worth and self-esteem, or in a relationship and you really, really thought things are going to go great, and the partner says, well, you don't have this or something. I would encourage, a person to always visit, and I like writing things down, like if you feel that it was a rejection and you felt that in your spirit, instead of a challenge to do better, let's go with the level that the person's at, not where we are now and know better and use different words for it. But let's really take it raw as it is, and say, write down, okay, if somebody says something about you that you don't like, that really affected your psychology, made you disappointed in that area, let's say it's a relationship, sit down and write the areas that you feel that you bring so much to the table in the relationship, whether it's your loyalty or your emotional availability or your care or, your acts of service. This way you can remind yourself with the qualities that you are already, but then write a paragraph about it and write it as if, you're describing a friend of yours that has those qualities. And it's gonna allow you to really digest the situation a lot better, whether it's your job and you never got that one. What are you, what are you really good? I'm a great, team leader. I'm a great higher thinker. I do very great in analytical work systems, you name it, whatever that you feel. But then write a paragraph about it and allow yourself to empower yourself. We have to become very good at being our best cheerleaders. Once you start practicing that type of connection and relationship with self, it's really so pleasant, and it dissolves all the other voices and noises behind in the background that are distracting you from really connecting with your own strength that you already have and the resources that are already available within you to tap into, including if you don't have enough information. Because, I had actually Dr. Bob was sharing this earlier on with someone. This homeless girl, she was homeless and she didn't know what to do, but she was signing for these free classes that the government offers, and there's many colleges offer. There's so many things out there, but because she had the intention to help and try to get out of the situation, because then she became such a successful businesswoman. But her backstory started at she was homeless.
Right. Yeah.
And that part, like you go down to that, not being able to have a roof over your head and that basic shelter and security, and the drive to choose to learn how to develop new skills that will allow you to earn and to get back on your feet is also your choice. You do have a choice. We all have free will. So choosing one thought, one empowering thought over another is a daily process. It's go ongoing all the time. And this could be developed more by being more aware and conscious about what's going on, by being fully present, engaging in all your senses towards life, things, situations, people, communication, because you're going to be more mindful and be able to uh, really absorb the information, respond in a much better light. So, talking about the building of the self-esteem is with self-love, self-care. Create boundaries for yourself. If you feel like you're being emotionally abused, or you live under a roof of your family and maybe your parents are abusive. We've heard a lot of stories, unfortunately, like that, or your husband is abusive, or that. It's not an easy thing to have every day and take in every day. It's gonna wear out after a while. But if you are allowing that to continue, um, things you have to do, whether it's professional help if it's dangerous, but it's something of norm where you can, on regular basis, communication, setting boundaries. You got to learn how to set boundaries. So you talk to the person, you address what was disturbing to you, and you let them know, and you put your foot down to set the boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
because that's going to build your self-esteem.
Where does fear? Because I think fear plays a real major factor right there.
Mm-hmm.
There, a person can be fearful to say anything because of what they envision might be the response, or fear, maybe even sometimes, of the success of that outcome for
Well,
themselves.
yes. I mean, we're going to continue experiencing what we give power to and also tolerate. You hear about stories, and sometimes, you hear about the victories of these people escaping these stories, but that's when they've had enough. They made a decision to put their foot down and to speak up and to take action, because, we're going to be compassionate. Do some people really, really have more pressure where their choices are much more limited? Yes. So we don't want to take away from that part. But is there choices? Yes, also. For every problem, big or small, there is a solution. There is a solution. But it's up to us to make decision and be courageous to take decisions and so forth.
I
So,
agree.
yeah.
It is important to make that decision, and I know it can be difficult sometimes. Um, I can recall from meetings that I've been involved in. It's a different bottom for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
We might just brush a little bit of pain, or we might nearly die before we might make that decision to actually do something about something. But what I did find is that when we make that decision, and we actually make that decision for ourselves and not for somebody else, not for mom or dad or kids or wife or partner, but actually do it for ourselves, that's when the real breakthrough is about the door opens wide open, is what I found for myself.
Yes, and out of all the virtues, whether it's wisdom, patience, so forth, the first one is courage. Because without it, as we know, Aristotle actually talks about it, and there's his famous quote on it. Because without, it's where everything starts.
Yeah,
Courage. Courage doesn't mean that you don't have fear, that you face your fear while you're still having the fear. It's not about not having it. Oh, he's so courageous, he doesn't get scared. It's not that. It's actually facing your fears even when they are present, and making that decision, taking that leap of faith, being having risk tolerance. And I even brought that in my acronym courage and optimize your creative mindset, because I really believe that we need to develop that inner confidence, by allowing ourselves to allow some uncertainty, okay? Because the people who are like so A-type personality and everything has to be A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, da 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 da. Well, the universe doesn't work that way all the time. You
Mhm.
can plan as much as you want. When there's things that are gonna happen and they're above your control, and those plans are gonna not be able to work, and then what's gonna happen to that person? They are the ones who find it so hard to adapt when crises happen, because they're so always in control of everything and calculated everything. Yes, I talk about calculated risk. You don't want to be jumping off a cliff and there's nothing to hold you, and you say, well, I'm brave, I'm going to do it. You got to have, smart risk tolerance, but you got to allow yourself to also step into the unfamiliar grounds and the unknown, and allow your curiosity to lead you to solutions, by optimizing your creative mindset towards those issues. So instead of looking at it as a situation of fear, like how can I be more creative in actually getting myself out of this situation? How can I get in the other person's brain or the system, or whatever it is that you're dealing with? And that's going to put you in a whole different psychology. And that psychology that you get into is that allows your soul to surrender to a state of calmness. And that state of calmness is going to invite more clarity and better direction in your forward steps.
I love it.
Good
You
stuff.
share, yeah, you share such great wisdom, Dr. Sophie.
Thank you.
You know, I, you said so much. It's like, where do I start with all of that? And I guess what I'm feeling is it's super important to just. This is what I've been hearing: set some boundaries for oneself, to forgive yourself too as well. I don't know that we really delved into that, but not have judgment, release some self-limiting thinking, and then take some action, because that's what it really all breaks back to, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Actually doing something about it. Thinking won't get you where you want to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um
Yes.
why is it important for someone to forgive themselves for the things that they've done wrong in the past?
Mm. It's funny because I do coaching, and one of my clients had a very, very tough divorce case that took over 2 years to finalize. And it was a very tough situation. So after meeting with her, a few months later, and after everything was totally complete and done, her issue was, and what she was trying to work with me at, is that she was having a hard time to forgive herself. She said, I was finally able to release him and the situation, but I'm not able to forgive myself. I feel like I was so stupid making those decisions. And how did I not see this? And how did that? And now look what I did. And look what this is causing my life and my daughter. And it just went on and on and on. You see, when you forgive someone else, it's another person and the situation outside yourself and your identity. So sometimes it's easier to let that go. But when it is yourself, it's your own inner being that you're dealing with, and you're visiting that constantly in the story that you play back and back and back to your mind. So believe it or not, it's one of the hardest areas, and people don't see it a lot because if they're not in that space, they don't understand that, because they haven't experienced themselves feeling so guilty that they can't even forgive themselves. But that cage and that prison that is created in the mind and
Mhm.
soul and emotions is a tough one.
It is.
Because, yes, because you got to come at peace with you. And that, even I heard a story about this girl that was involved in human trafficking, and she was talking about her story and how it started with something with her girlfriend going somewhere and not they were setting her up basically, and then she couldn't pay her the amount for something, and then she put in a situation where this guy would come, and then she started being in that whole space, and then they would threaten that they, like typical stories we hear, your family, blah blah blah, and she was scared and stayed in it and so forth. And she was talking about when she was able to finally get out of that whole system and get breakthrough, she had met someone who was coaching her, and she was dealing with the self-forgiveness issue so much, the self-worth, self-value, all that stuff. And he empowered her to a degree where all those things were getting restored back in her life, and her self-concept and her self-esteem. And she said that they ended up getting married. That guy actually ended up marrying her. And she was talking about her message to people who were in that situation is to forgive themselves. She said only when she was able to forgive herself was she able to truly start living. She was haunted all the time with her own thoughts and images, and she said it was so like chained to her own cage that she built with the thoughts that she won't release or let go. So you're talking about a very, very, very important aspect of healing. And without that, without forgiving, whether it's others or self, you're not healed yet.
That's so beautifully said, because it starts with serving ourselves by forgiving ourselves. And I know that that to me was really true freedom when I finally released the burden of feeling, and I'm just going to put it like this, feeling sorry for myself, and using that as an excuse to not like myself. And once I stepped out of it, things got so much better, and it was just like a burden was lifted off my shoulders. It's so awesome. Now, I want to let everybody know it can be an interactive podcast, okay? And we certainly would like to hear from you. If you have some thoughts or comments or questions for Dr. Sophie, feel free to go ahead and put those in the comments, and we'll address those in just a moment. We're going to go to a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. So be thinking about the things that you might want to be asking Dr. Sophie about how you can serve and how you can feel better about yourself and move forward in obtaining a higher quality of life and happiness and joy and peace and serenity and all those things that can be obtained. Wonderful. All right, let's go to a commercial break.
We let our bathtub go too long. It had rust in it. It had deep pitting in it. There were chips. I, quite frankly, thought it was unrepairable.
Total Coatings is a family-owned and operated bathtub and shower refinishing company. We've been around since 2006, but we use a exclusive non-toxic porcelain coating that was developed over 60 years ago by a franchise in California. So the product is very well established. We refinish bathtubs, showers, wall tile, countertops, and even sinks. Customers want to know what makes our product different, and that's, of course, the exclusive non-toxic porcelain. We also don't acid etch the surface, so you don't have to leave your home because of noxious fumes.
I was completely and utterly shocked. It looked like a brand new bathtub. I would recommend Total Coatings to anybody.
Wonderful. We want to thank Total Coatings for sponsoring this program. And if you're interested in sponsoring this program, we'd be happy to talk to you. Do send us an email at admin@lwnfoundation.org, and we'd be happy to talk to you about sponsoring this or any future programs. We're talking tonight about how you can serve your community, serve yourself. And when we serve, it's a healing process. So I'd like to move more into that. Now, Dr. Sophie has just recently released a best-selling, I call it a manual because it is a manual for success.
Listen, it is so big.
It is a big book. I didn't pull mine out. I got it right
I
here.
had two of my friends who are, international award-winning authors, and when they got their book, one sends me, "This is a weapon. And Dr. Bob says he taught women self-defense. He said, Sophie, we can use this. You just bang somebody with the head, and it's like so
Dr.
strong."
Bob, Dr. Bob is going to add that to a self-defense course. Always have a copy of Dr. Sophie's Customize Your Creative Mindset. And whack him on the head with it. Maybe Dr.
Maybe
Creative
they'll
Thinking. Oh, goodness. But yeah, what a wonderful book. I have to be honest, I haven't gotten through the whole book by any stretch, but I'm working through it.
It's
Great.
427 pages, so I know it's gonna take some people some time. Except Randy Ward. I mean, well, remember she was a teacher, and she's an editor, and she read the book 3 times already.
Wow.
I was like, wow, that is something.
Well, she's either getting less sleep than I am, or more
No,
time.
she when her school, she said when the principal would always be so surprised how she would already have the grades and the tests marked the first teacher. So she's a fast reader.
That helps.
Yes.
I tend to be a little bit slower and stop and write notes, and you did.
Yeah, I do. I like writing notes too. I like to read it first, like, have a general idea of the book I'm having.
Yeah.
Then every book, by the way, that I have, I like to, because I like if I'm, Carl Rogers or, Roger Shanks, different people have like big books.
Mhm.
And I would have a notebook and I write the highlights. And that's like my to-go reference of my own intake and areas that I wanted also to elaborate further from the teachings and so forth. So I like to write too, notes for books. Yes.
Yeah, I do too. And you made me think of it, and I don't want to take away from our tonight's program, but we do have Don Green, who is the CEO of the Napoleon Hill Foundation.
Yes.
He's going to be coming and on our show November 20th. We tried to do it previously. He wasn't able to make it.
I remember. Yes, I saw
And
that.
so
That's
I just
awesome.
confirmed this morning with him that he's going to come on, and that's another great book. It's just so many people. It's like their Bible about how to do life. It's great.
It is, yes.
Thank you, so Rich. I think I said that, but if I didn't, thank you for reminding me of the name of the book, right? Well,
yeah.
Books. Okay. So, all right. I wanted to have you do this. You got a lot of information in that book about how to use creative mindset and creative thinking to achieve the goals that a person wants to achieve. Maybe you would choose one area that you would talk about now that's relative to people serving, and how that chapter relates to this. How about that, Dr. Sophie, sharing something out of your book with us?
Okay. So emotional healing and serving and creativity can be such a great alliance if they are combined together. Meaning, if you're healing and you're using your creativity to direct the pain out of your body versus, staying in that one space and playing the story, the pain, and feeling it more and more, it will assist in transitioning yourself and put you in a much better space. It will get you to refocus your thoughts on something more empowering than disempowering, to charge your energy. And so I like maybe to, I would use the creative techniques with that. Why do I say that? Because if you have a process or you have tools that you can go back to yourself and apply them to your own psychology and your own mind, and then now internally you are going to feel better and understand the situation in a different light. For example, when we have lateral thinking, right, it allows you to look at things from a different light. Blue sky thinking is gonna, there is no limits, zero limits. You can imagine, think of anything and it's all good, you know, because
That's
we
my
see
cat.
things. Yes. I would say, for example, new box thinking. What if? Asking a question of what if. So this is your situation currently, and this is what you believe happened from the situation, and this is the outcome that you're experiencing. So you tell yourself this happened because of this, but then in your mind, if you can reframe that and say, you know, what if that I am in this situation because of this, but then now I'm choosing to do this instead, and it will immediately allow for possibilities in your own psyche. That possibility itself is going to make you feel better right away. You see, when people go to church, when people go to meetings and sales meeting corporations, when people go to family gatherings and meet with, you know, wise counsels or so, they get so much inspired by certain things, like someone would tell them or a promise given. What they're really so connected to is the hope that their situation is going to get better by applying this advice, suggestion, or teaching. So when you can start adopting a way to bring more hope into your situation by you, it becomes a new habit that you're forming when you face life. And it will be something you do all the time, and it will be part of your way of operating. It's just like how you would brush your teeth, and how would you know to go home in a certain way by default, because you go all the same way all the time. So I like to say, don't feel stuck into that one scenario. The if will allow to new possibilities and suggestions for better problem solving, which allows for more clarity, more understanding, and healing. Takes time for some people because it depends on the situation. We have to be realistic. But everyone handles pressure and stress differently. That's why I like to provide different tools, and part of it was breathing and laughter. I mean, we might think of it as, you know, oh yeah, everybody talks about it. Yes, but not everybody applies it or practices it truly. And the fact that if it becomes part of your regimen and your circle, meaning when you surround yourself with your friends or cousins or neighbors or co-workers, try to connect with the ones who have a little bit of humor. Add one person of that into your life. Have one person who's in that space to remind you if you're away from it because you're working too hard and you're so stressed. You don't even watch comedies. You don't read jokes. You never share. And you're just into this complete service mode all the time. Does not work. You'll be depleted. There has to be some balance in the situation. So I really believe in the power of laughter because of the fact it engages both hemispheres of the brain, the left and the right, which promotes more creative thinking and better problem solving. Okay? So this is a tool that anyone can access anywhere. You don't need to, you know, spend a ton of money for. I mean, start with things that are accessible and easy to really start. Just make a decision. You won't make a decision if you don't see the value. And you won't see a value if you don't understand it to a way, like scientifically, what are the benefits, and then test it on yourself, see how you feel. How do you feel after a good belly laugh?
Right. Great. You do.
You know, seriously.
Yeah.
And then how do you feel after listening to the news about some, you know, bad incident that happened?
Terrible. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, do we want to discount that being engaged and knowing what's happening around and feeling with others is not important? No. That's why people like you, Stephen, with nonprofit are doing things for a community, but they're taking action. They're not just sitting there and crying over it. And, you know, yes, you can cry to feel empathy. You can pray to feel empathy. But the best strongest act of faith is to take action and make a change or a stop to what's happening.
Amen.
And how are you going to make a stop to what's happening if you are not in a good space yourself, if you're not healthy, if you don't have the energy to give? How can you think when you're so depleted?
Exactly.
Then one big human family, one nonprofit to the other, are doing work for you because you're depleted, but now they're doing the work for people who are depleted that cannot do it because they need our services, they need our help. And if every one of us took that pride in serving humanity from a core intrinsic motivation, not because you want to be called a hero and you want to be known as, you saved the world because it's your name, well, great, it could be your good intention.
Right.
But if you really do it because you look at this as a family, we are so interconnected on many levels, and each one has a role to apply, and really hold yourself to that, I'm going to tell you, magical things start happening. So going back to your question about serving, when you serve from an intrinsic motivation versus you're serving from an obligation, because everybody told you got to take care of the elderly, it's respectful, so now in your brain you are wanting to do something because of that, which is good teachings, but you're only the same action is taken, but because of the love and the honor of our elderlies, because those people were serving us where we are now, they paved the way for us to be where we're at right now. If we give that respect genuinely and we honor them, we are going to have amazing blessings in many ways, and you won't understand it until you actually do it. In that, when you see that person is blessing you, smiling, or thank you, because we live in a country and times where this is not looked on at all. One of the worst way to grow old is in some countries versus others who honor elderlies. Their ancestor blessing is so important. The little greatest grandkid has to go and get a blessing from his great-great-grandfather if he's alive, because they respect and honor his presence. Okay? So if we do things from an intrinsic understanding and love, with the intention of serving out of no expectation of return, I'm going to tell you, that's when I say healing happens. When we serve, we heal. If we are serving because it looks good and so forth, taking a role, that's one thing, but it might never heal you, because it's like an obligation. It's like a responsibility. Like you're going to work, you have a job, you do administrative work, you come online, you talk, you speak to people. It's like a job. But when it's done from the heart, it's a mission, and it's your why, it's your purpose, it's your power. It's what keeps you going and helps your positive discipline in times when you might be tired to keep going, but your mind and the why is going to push you and push you and push you towards what you want to serve, because it's coming out of love. Your hours vanish before you know it. The time goes by. You're like, oh my God. I recently was talking to a friend of mine who did very well at work, but he got fired. He got fired because he got the highest numbers in sales in what he was doing, but because they have to go on a certain hours a week, like 9 hours, let's say, on phone calls, and he was just closing deals so much faster than their quota, they fired him because of that.
Wow.
Okay?
Right.
That shows you they're not into like creative. I mean, not inviting creativity. If somebody's talented, like sometimes people who are really talented or smart actually suffer. That's why they end up opening their own businesses and creating products, because they can't fit in your regimen of normal society, because they're so confirmed of rules that they are beyond. They're open more than that, and they cannot be the best selves with it. So I said, okay, so what are you going to do? He said, I want to be honest with you, Sophie. I have been doing so good in this business for so many years, but I really don't believe in the product that I'm selling. And I'm like, are you kidding me? He said, yeah, I won't buy it. I said, what do you mean? He said, I just use the benefit from the company, like because you get benefits. But he said, I won't really buy it. Now, don't get me wrong. The same product is loved by many other people, but we have our personal things. Sure. And that same person was not feeling well, and he was a little bit telling me that he's in a dark space, he's depressed, da-da-da-da-da. And then when he told me that, I understood exactly what was happening. You see, that's exactly about serving. You can work for a company, you can do great at it, you can earn money, but if it's not aligned with your values, it's not going to be meaningful to your presence and time, and it's not going to be rewarding. They even did a discovery about people who volunteer.
Yes.
The same job, if they did it, when they volunteered, they were even happier, because that comes so much from inside and intrinsic motivation. So if we are serving, and I asked that person, I said, what type of work would you do for free and enjoy doing it? Because I'm trying to help him think and connect to his own emotional core values that he aligns with, that when he is in that present serving it, it's going to feel so different. And that's when I mentioned in our panel, you know, when we serve, we heal. We heal if it's coming from a good place.
Yes.
And that's where the healing really happens. That's where your endorphins are increased, because your immune system is boosted. You know, people are going through COVID, and some of us here are so excited about life because we can't wait to serve others. Yes. So every time I wake up, I'm excited and showing up. Well, where can I serve and how can I serve? It's a beautiful thing. It's not an exhausting thing. I mean, you get tired, you need sleep, you need a time out, all that. That's the normal way. But you're not tired of the serving, because it's so aligned with you and who you are authentically. So when we serve, we heal. But when we serve from an authentic purpose and space of our soul. So that would be my answer, Stephen.
That's excellent. Well, I certainly find that when, and this is what I've had to do, not had. Why do I say had? This is what I've done. What I've done is decided that I wanted to pay it forward without expectation of a personal goal, without expectation of personal gain, and give freely. And it does start with loving yourself, forgiving yourself, and then putting into action your creative thinking processes. And you can get those or figure that out better by getting Dr. Sophie's book, Optimize Your we've got the right there, www.transcendence.com.
Actually, it's at DrSofieNubani.com.
Oh, .care. Transcendence.care, excuse me.
No, DrSofieNubani.com is my website.
Oh, well, I have that all wrong.
It's okay. It's okay. It's Dr. Sofie Nubani, just like my name on the panel here.
There we go.
And .com.
We're out of time. We want to thank everybody for joining us this evening. Thank you so very much. God bless you. We hope that you're going to have a great evening or day, or whenever you happen to be watching this, know that you're loved and that you can achieve anything that you want. Put your mind to it and reach out. If we can help you in any way, we're here to help. God bless. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Blessings.
Monday. Yeah.